Greetings my friends, ANDIvax is here with you, and today I'm going to tell you about an amazing product from Slate Digital, the Virtual Mix Rack plugin. This plugin represents a virtual rack in which you can insert various processing devices. Currently, these are EQs, compressors, psychoacoustic processors, and so on. Slate Digital, an American company which was founded by Steven Slate. Steve is famous for his talent to sell well. However, if the products from Slate Digital were of low quality, then they would be destined for the fall. During the development of his plugins, Steve often uses his own ears. And it is the right thing to do. When I was a kid, my dad always helped me to solder all the different guitar pedals. After we were done assembling the circuit, we connected the oscilloscope to the output and watched how the device was converting to normal sinusoid. Theoretically, we should have received the saw or square form, depending on the type of the guitar pedal. And already back then I understood one simple thing. What looked ideal in the oscilloscope screen was far not what was necessary to my ears. Trust your ears, my friends. Various programmers participate during the development of the plugins by Slate Digital. For example, an amazing trigger plugin for replacing the drums was done by the programmer from Russia. And the person responsible for the emulations of the VCC consoles, the tape machine VTM plugin, and the virtual mix rack is one of the best programmers of our time, Fabrice Gabriel. No matter what the people may say, I still believe the standard of sound to be in the hardware processing. If you only have to do with the software processing, then the one being at the top of the ranks is an American company called Universal Audio, of whose products we are definitely going to talk in the ANDIvax reviews still to come. So, in my opinion, the Slate Digital plugins have already seriously pressed Universal Audio from their pedestal, and it is very cool for us, the ordinary users. Some healthy competition forces the developers to move forward, raising the quality bar higher and higher. And it is also forces the developers to decrease the price for their products, which is quite pleasant for us, my friends. So, let us take a closer look at Virtual Mix Rack. So, an interface of Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack is divided into 3 zones. A zone of loading and work with the presets, a library of modules to the left, and the rack space, which contains the slots, the maximal amount of which can be increased up to 8. Pay your attention that there are filters available in the library. The devices for equalization, dynamics processing, harmonizers, and so on. And the library module, which we can also hide from view. The only negative side to me is the scroll bar. I'm using it all the time and it doesn't seem like a very comfortable solution to me. A much more elegant solution would be to do these pictures in not a vertical way, but horizontal, and small in size, so the scroll bar doesn't appear at all. There are 2 ways to add a module. Either double-click on a module or drag and drop. We take it and drag it over. Of course, using drag and drop feature, we can change the place where the modules are located in the rack as we keep adding them. In order to drag the module over, we use drag and drop once again. In order to clone it, we once again press the Alt key, click and make a copy of it. Here is the button to delete the plugin. Enable and disable function of processing button. This solo button. Pay your attention that there are several modes of soloing. Left click alone puts one module only in solo mode. If we click it alone with the Ctrl key, then we add a new element to our group. Also, as in lots of other plugins, there is naturally a preset browser in here. However, there are several of them in the given plugin. Firstly, these are global presets, or the preset banks, with the categories. It has a comfortable sorting. Here we can rename, delete, export, import the bank and so on. Also, there is a browser preset for each of the modules, and one should note that the presets in here are working really cool. Notice that the asterisk symbol appears during the modification of the preset. There is an asterisk symbol appearing right in the preset's name. Another very interesting function is the function of copying or carrying over of the processing between the racks via the usual drag and drop. We grab the module from here and carry it over to the neighbor rack. It is just amazingly handy. If we do not want to carry it over but want to copy it, we press the Alt key and copy it. Apart from deleting with the help of this symbol, we can use drag and drop function and carry over the module beyond the plugin window. As you can see, the recycle bin logo has appeared, and in such way the module gets deleted. To cut it short, in order to implement the same function, we have several options, which is quite comfortable. As for the parameters of the controls, then in order to reset the parameter to its default state, it is enough to do either the double click or press Alt and click combination. The only thing that lacks for me in here, and it is especially related to the EQ modules, it is some kind of a shortcut or possibly the right click with a mouse by which this parameter will be reset to 0 and return to the past state, and return to the past state once again with another click, in order to compare the results of processing as in before and after. And now the right click shows the current settings of the given control knob, which is also quite comfortable to tell the truth. Also pay your attention to these two buttons in the right top corner. The star symbol is the menu of these default settings. You can set the current settings as default, and with each new start, the plugin will load these particular modules. You can come back and restore it to the factory default settings by saving them as default, or you may just reset the entire track, or you may just reset the entire rack. The next hit button is the knob rotary mode. If the button is not active, then the mode is linear and usual. We move the mouse up and down, left and right, and the control knob rotates. If you have the touch screen, then we enable the rotary mode. Now let us talk about the modules which are included in the Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack set. It is a legend, a classic compressor which has been through heaps of revisions and editions. We know it by the numbers of 1176. Here it is called FG116, a transistor compressor. In essence, you can watch the entire video about compressors that I have made about these amazing devices. So it has gain reduction indication at the top. We can see how much our signal is getting compressed, for how many decibels the peaks are being cut off. Also, there are controls of the incoming signal volume, the input and the one for the output signal. Pay your attention that when the control knobs of input and output are set to the state, as it is here, at input at -48 and the output at -6 decibels, we receive so-called unity gain. It means that the volume of the incoming signal is equal to the volume of the output signal. Also pay your attention to the super cool feature. We hold the Shift key on keyboard, the mentioned unity gain is remaining while you change the input and the output gain knobs. Another interesting and unnecessary function. Try to hold Shift and click on the attack knob. It instantly comes to off mode. It means that it is turned off. Along with it, compressor disables itself completely. However, our signal is still being colored. I mean, if you want to add the analog coloring to your synthesizers, for example, then you have to try this mode for sure. The noise reduction key disables the modeled noise. And very useful is the mix control knob between the wet and the dry signal. I shall note straight away that in the one and the other compressor, I have lack of the sidechain control knob in order to leave the low frequency of our signal uncompressed. Then pay your attention to the FG401 module. It is so-called hybrid. The classic British A-class console compressor was taken as a foundation for it. It has been modified and several interesting options have been added to it. Firstly, it is enabling and disabling of the transformer function, which colors not only the low frequency content, as I got used to it, for example, but also colors the middle frequencies. In truth, if you want to really feel through the analog coloring of the Slate Digital Virtual Mix Rack, then I recommend doing it with a very complicated signal, meaning you have to put this process in for the master bus and try to turn the various options on and off, just so you can hear how it affects the sound, and then you will understand the difference in coloring very clearly. Also, the given compressor has two processing chains. The first processing chain adds more punch and more dynamics to the signal, and the second processing chain is more transparent in terms of dynamics and it doesn't compress the low frequencies that much. Coming out of my 3-month experience of using this plugin, I shall say the FG401 sounds in a very pleasant musical way for the instruments. It relates to the solo mode. However, in the mix, it is FG116 compressor that shows itself in a best way more often. It works somehow more smoothly, in an even more musical way. Nevertheless, I recommend trying out both of these devices, and the comparison A/B function will come very handy for us here, which has A and B slots. For example, we do some settings, change or load a preset. We enable FG401 compressor for slot A. We copy the settings and state to slot B with the help of this little arrow. And here we enable FG116 accordingly, then disable the second compressor. Now we can change between the settings and modes. But one more favorite feature of mine, which Steven and his team has added to this amazing plugin, is the fact that we should not do any extra moves in order to listen and compare several modes and settings. We do the right click and compare which sound pleases us best. A terrific little feature which will save you lots of time, my friends. Then we have an outstanding EQ. It is emulation of the NIF console, which is called FGN. Well, it is quite difficult to say something of such a simple equalizer. It is way too simple, sorry for repeating myself. Essentially, here they double the middle frequency range. It is done simply for the comfort of use. Also, it has a very handy drive knob. Here is a live knob with the drive knob disabled. It increases harmonics and increases the volume of the signal. With the drive knob enabled, we increase only the saturation, only increase the harmonics, which are a pleasure to our hearing. Once again, if you do not hear and do not feel the effect of the harmonics with the increase of the drive parameter, then all is very simple. Try to set this EQ to your master bus, and then you will hear it very clearly, how saturation works in this amazing EQ. I shall tell you straight that if I need to make this sound fatter in particular, make it massive and really colored, then it is without a second thought the EQ which emulates NIF console. However, if I need a more accurate correction, it is especially to do with the ultra highs, then of course I am using the FGS emulation. Well, what can I say of such simple configuration? Firstly, it is a cool sound. Secondly, it is comfort in controls. Also pay your attention that the cutoff filter for the low frequencies is up to 300 Hz for NIF, while SSL has it up to 500 Hz. Sometimes I'm using both of these cutoff filters because they add a very interesting sound add-on at the low frequencies, and especially FGS, it threads the signal in a very accurate way, because quite often we hear very unpleasant sound add-on artifacts in the cutoff frequency. So these two are very good equalizers, which acts as a very cool addition to each other. Then comes a psychoacoustic device called Revival. At the top it has VU meter. Pay your attention that it is VU and not the peak meter and two knobs. All is very simple. The control of harmonics at low frequencies and for the high frequencies. I should note that in contrary to the rest of enhancer devices, this regulator knob adds the harmonics of a rustling kind. It is a very ultra high frequencies. Next comes the trimmer module. All is simple here. It has VU indicator, The peak indicator, which is more familiar to you and I who grew up in the digital era. The trim indicator, it is the usual volume indicator or the gain from -24 and up to +24 decibels. And the phase reverse indicator, which reverses the phase. Nothing out of the ordinary. However, if your incoming signal is too hot, then this module comes very handy. Then come two modules from the Virtual Console Collection set, which are made of two modules. The module called Virtual Channel, which is for the channel, and the module for the bus. It can be the master bus or the bus where you have all the synthesizers coming together or all the drums. It is called Virtual Mix Bus. I shall tell you about this collection sometime next, if anyone wants me to do it. Make sure to leave comments and let me know if you're interested in hearing the review for this amazing product from the Slate Digital. Also very interesting news is that in the future you will be able to buy a subscription for this amazing plugin. For example, you pay $30 per month and keep using it. If you are not using the plugin, you freeze your subscription and do not lose your money. Also, if you analyze the menu and if you are an experienced person and work with the plugins for a while, then you surely noticed that each year the plugins, their amount and their quality keep growing, and that is why you stop using some of the old processing devices. In this regard, the topic of subscription is very interesting to me. You will be always getting the new models. I want to note that Compressor, which emulates 1176 according to claims by Steven Slate, very accurately recreates that particular device which he has in his studio, and the professional sound engineers could not tell where the software and where the hardware was during the blind test. I want to add from my side that none of the 1176 which I had a chance to use, mostly these were silverface and blackface models. They are not alike to these devices. Essentially, it is nothing to wonder about, since if we even take one device of the same series, same year of production, place them together and compare, then the sound will differ. It is the world of analog, baby. That is why, out of interest, I have made the test of the various 1176 compressors. For the test of comparison I used the hardware compressor, emulations from the Waves, Slate Digital, IK Multimedia, and I should add that their processors are also worth the attention, and I shall make sure to do a separate review about them. And you can download the file in the link description to this video and hear it with your own ears. I should tell you right away that the character of compression is present in all of the emulations, and it is really cool. So my friends, let us sum it up. I really liked this plugin. Currently, these are my favorite compressors and EQs which add color to the sound. However, it all has its cons and pros. Let us talk of them in detail. The first start time of the plugin is very long, at around 7 seconds on my system. There is no way to fully disable the analog white noise. It can be felt a lot during the use of Virtual Mix Rack on Master Bus. The plugin is really cool on Master. The EQs do not have cutoff filter of the high frequencies. Finally, there is no sidechain controller knob in compressors. Pros. Firstly, these are amazing, really musical emulations of the classic devices. Good basic set of processing devices which will always be updated and added to. Amazing little features which speed up the workflow and increase the comfort of use. Low load on CPU. Smooth change of the frequency in the EQs. Possibility of dragging the processing from the different windows of the plugins. Very good presets. I strongly recommend updating your collection of plugins with a great product by Slate Digital. In the year of 2015, the developers of the plugins came very close to the high quality of processing which can be compared to the hardware devices. Of course, we can compare the emulations to their hardware prototypes for hours on end. However, just give these plugins a try in real use in the mix. Also pay your attention to the fact that you are going to need iLok 2 in order to use Virtual Mix Rack plugin. Thank you very much for your time, my friends. Subscribe to my channel and follow the news from the world of software and hardware along with me and ANDIvax reviews. I hope that my review has been useful to you, you found it interesting, and I hope that it will save you lots of money and time. ANDIvax was here with you until the new mixes. And domo arigato, Mr. Roboto.